Yo, welcome back to Everybody's a Critic, everyone. We're glad to have you back. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you are here with us. We appreciate you. I am your host, Jamarco Shaw, and it's just the two of us, man. It's your boy Steven Dinkins over here.
Hey everybody.
Steven. And then of course the legend Brandon Horn right here.
Oh, I'll be being played by the part of Ralph from the Muppets on this episode.
Yes, and on this show, of course, we talk about the latest movie news and what's going on in the industry, and then we get into our infamous, I'm putting that into fruition, into existence, our iconic director's deep dive. We're still in the Edgar Wright mode, and we're going to get into Hot Fuzz. But first, Brandon, you saw Alien Romulus, right?
Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did. So
What?
good.
Yes, just get a quick audience, just a little tease. Just how'd you feel about it, and what did you love about it?
Okay, no spoilers, of course. But it's no secret I'm a big fan of Fede Alvarez. With Evil
Mm-hmm.
Dead 2013 and his Don't Breathe, the first one, like he is like really solidified himself in horror, and I think like Alien Romulus just fucking does that like times 10. Like he is takes hold of this franchise in such a great way. Lots of homages to the OG, especially at the first two movies. Um, but yeah, it's just downright good sci-fi horror, man. Like definitely one of my favorite theater experiences. Because just hearing people say like, "Oh shit," or like, "What the fuck," um, or like just
Yeah.
reacting in certain ways always makes me like enjoy a horror movie that much more. But yeah, it's really good. You
Black
definitely
people.
want to definitely one to see in theaters. You got to see this one in theaters for sure.
Absolutely, and I am. This is one of my most anticipated movies of the year. I like Brandon said, I love that Evil Dead movie so much. Maybe when I'm feeling a little sick, I say I might like it better than the first one, but we'll save
Mhm.
that debate for another day. I'm excited to go see it. Shout out to the cast, Kaylee Spaney. You've seen her in Civil War and Priscilla. David Johnson, who's in the excellent Hulu comedy Rye Lane. Watch that. And then Isabella Mercado. She's been everywhere. She was Dora the Explorer. I think she was in Transformers. And now she's gearing up to be Hawk Girl in James Gunn's Superman next year. So a lot of big names, a lot of big attractions coming up. So look out for that. But if you have seen Alien Romulus, please let us know how you feel about it. I spent the weekend watching Alien and Aliens, of course. So we'll get to those when we get to our Ridley Scott James Cameron segments of the show. But for now, hey Steven, how you doing over there, man? I just want to
Oh, I'm
single
pretty
you
good.
out.
It's all good.
Seen any good movies lately?
Yeah. So I mean, I don't get to the theater as often as I would like anymore. Being a parent and life being expensive and all. But my most recent theater excursion was to see Deadpool and Wolverine. It was a very jolly good time. I am behind on like several of the Marvel projects, but I feel like I had at least enough of a foundational knowledge going in, you know, like certain aspects of it, if I guess for anybody who tuned out completely after Endgame, if you at least watched any one episode of Loki, you will understand some concepts more when it comes to like the TVA, which is the time variance authority,
Yeah,
for the uninitiated. But I mean, Matthew McFadyen as um,
Paradox.
Paradox was, yeah, that was a great villainous performance. He is a phenomenal actor that you love to hate. Of course, going off of like his character in Succession. So yeah, I mean, of course, very
So
well
much.
choreographed action sequences. A lot more jokes landed than they didn't. But I just love really good like hand to hand combat, and things of that nature. There are a lot of great callbacks. There was like one cameo that was spoiled for me beforehand just because it kind of got the internet in an uproar, especially regarding a certain character accent. But I
Hey
gotta
Steven, they
say,
made $1
like,
billion.
That's for
You can talk about it.
okay, fair enough. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, Channing Tatum Gambit.
Listen,
Which
now,
at the
man,
same
they're
time,
like
like,
they don't
but
care.
I'm like, if you watch the '90s X-Men show, I feel like he at least watched that and tried to like do his best attempt at that based off that full remutable.
Yeah, it's hard to get the Cajun accent right, but bless
Exactly,
Channing, he's
but for the
doing his best.
physicality of the role, I'm hard pressed to think of a lot of people who could have done that better, considering he has such a phenomenal like physical background with dancing and whatnot.
Of course, he dances in every
So
movie he's in.
yeah, right. But some of the other cameos definitely surprised me, especially somebody who Marvel brought back. Considering like the other most shocking recent news of that is like Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Doctor Doom. I still have no idea exactly how they intend on making it work, but hey,
We'll
it's
see.
gonna sell
Look,
tickets. It's gonna make $1 billion. The mouse always comes out on top eventually. So
look, we can
or
rave
else.
and rant all we want on these
Yeah.
comments, but we're all going to be there.
Yeah,
Right?
right.
Like,
Right.
I'm not
Because
even
I
gonna
mean,
lie,
part
that
of it is
show.
gonna be like how. So of course I'm gonna be seeing
Yeah,
it.
it's the curiosity factor. And of course, everybody who's seen Deadpool and Wolverine, it is now the highest grossing R-rated film of all time, beating out the Joker, beating out Passion of the Christ. It reigns supreme. We'll see if Lady Gaga and Joaquin can take their title back in October. But for now, we're getting back into the Edgar Wright director deep dive, and today we're doing it for the greater good.
The
That was just,
greater good.
there you go. All right.
Greater good.
We're talking about Hot Fuzz. Hot Fuzz, Edgar Wright's second film, came out in 2007. So basically, after Shaun of the Dead blew the roof off of everything, Universal pretty much said, you know what? You can do whatever you want now. And Edgar Wright chose to make a buddy cop film. Why a buddy cop film? Well, I have a quote from the man himself right here because we take notes. We're very prepared over here, and everybody's a critic. He says, and I quote, there isn't really any tradition of cop films in the UK. We felt that every other country in the world had its own tradition of great cop action films, and we had none. So there you go. Edgar Wright, of course. Excuse me. Edgar Wright, of course, a nerd of the highest capacity. So after this, him and Simon Pegg put their heads together and said, okay, how are we going to make a buddy cop film about this sleepy cottage town? They went through and watched 138 different buddy cop films.
I'm just glad it wasn't an even number. That would have
to
bothered
get
me.
they needed to get it right. And Nick Frost, of course, who plays Danny and their writing partner as well, he just sat up and watched Bad Boys 2. He's like, I got everything I need to know about this right here. So if you haven't seen Hot Fuzz, a little quick synopsis for you. It's about Simon Pegg. He stars as Nicholas Angel. He's the best cop in the UK. He's very good at his job. Some would say he's a little too good at his job. So his chief inspector ships him off to Sanford, Gloucestershire. I hope I said that right. Sleepy little college village town where nothing is happening. The cops are all idiots. It's nothing but old people, underage drinking, and a lot of accidents that tend to happen. So, as innocent as this town may appear, there's a dark secret underworld lurking. Everybody thinks Nick Angel is crazy until Danny Butterman, his partner, his best friend, and the son of the police chief, they team up to expose this conspiracy of sorts. Now, of course, we mentioned that there are references all over this thing. It's an Edgar Wright movie, of course, there's references. So that he loves Bad Boys, he loves Point Break, he loves Dirty Harry and Heat. So that leads me to the question, fellas: what are some of your favorite buddy cop or cop adjacent films?
I was thinking about this very hard.
Yeah.
And I'd have to probably go like maybe because it was on the other day and so it's fresh in my mind. But gotta go Rush Hour. Rush Hour is
yeah.
like top tier action comedy, buffoonery. Chris Tucker, and Jackie
It was almost
Chan.
Chris Rock.
Almost, that's insane. Wouldn't be able to see that, but no, yeah, Rush Hour is timeless to me. Like I can throw on any of those movies at any time, and have a really good time. But on the serious side, I think one of my favorite cop movies would have to be like Inside Man, like if that counts. I know it's like more of a heist
Really good
movie,
one, yeah.
but like cops are the main characters. So I really enjoy that one.
The rare Spike Lee movie that feels normal.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
You're like, oh shit, Spike did this. What
yeah, like you have to be reminded that it's a Spike Lee joint because otherwise, there's people aren't like caricatures of themselves. It felt like the vast majority of the events in that movie could happen in real life. The cops themselves felt grounded. It wasn't, just like super exaggerated.
Well, what are some of your favorite cop movies, Steven?
So, like before we start recording, I mentioned The Other Guys. I'm a sucker for a good buddy cop action comedy. And also, given my feelings about many of police in real life, I feel like a lot of the better police work you see done in general happens in film. So let's see. So I'm a big fan of course, shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but The Other Guys from 2010 has to be like top tier for me. On the more serious side, I guess we also briefly touched on End of Watch. So that's a great one right there with Jake Gyllenhaal and Michael Pena. And I really like that one felt a little more realistic, but unrealistic because they were good cops. So
In the LAPD of all places.
right, yeah. Like what? You mean these guys aren't grimy? Like I
Total
really
sci-fi.
like one of the things I respected the most was like the part of that where Jake Gyllenhaal like takes off his belt and he just like fights this guy as a man, you know what I mean? Like yes, there's at any moment he could have, tased him, shot him if he had to, or if things got rough, if he, feared for his life, if the guy resembled an acorn. But no, he's like, hey, we're just gonna like settle this like men and we're gonna talk after. So, I appreciated that.
Love both those answers. As far as my favorite cop movies go, I'll do what you guys do a little comedy and then do a little bit of the seriousness. When it comes to comedies, I think it's an unfair advantage, but I love those Jump Street movies. I just rewatched both of them the other day. I just think those are up there as far as like two of the funniest movies of the 2010s. Dare I say of all time? There's just like the whole poetry bit in 22 Jump is just like Julia Roberts. I could go on, but I digress. And as far as serious cop movies go, because I just watched this one recently, I gotta say Heat. I think Heat is just like the perfect cops and robbers movie. Like you look up Heat in a dictionary, it's just gonna be like the perfect cops and robbers movie. It got everything. It's got girls, it's got cool dudes in suits. Val Kilmer looks great. Robert De Niro has a cool beard. Natalie Portman has OCD. It's just one of those movies you can throw on any time of the day for me. Shout out to Michael Mann. That's going to be a fun episode. But speaking of other buddy cops, we go back to Hot Fuzz, which takes all of these movies we mentioned, and well, none of them exist yet, but those movies from the 2000s, and puts them all in the blender, mixing them with a little bit of English culture, and here we have Hot Fuzz. I want to open this up to you guys now. For you, do you guys remember the first time you saw Hot Fuzz? That long, huh?
I'm trying to think. It might have been no. I know because Scott Pilgrim was probably my first Edgar Wright, but I think this was like my first Cornetto like movie, like Hot Fuzz was out of the trilogy of this The World's End and Shaun of the Dead. I don't remember the first time particularly, but I do remember like it had to be like maybe my second time watching it. Like I showed it to like a family member and like they're like, "What is this?" Like they thought it was like kind of like a more serious cop movie, and then like they saw what was going on, and they like just did the dad thing of just like standing there and like watching like most of the movie, and I was like,
good.
"Oh yeah, it's got you." But no, yeah, I do remember just initially really enjoying this, like that opening, like basically 20 minutes of like where it's like him being like the best cop at it he is in his hometown. um Totally fooled me. I was like, what is going on here? And then like it just totally unravels into something so chaotic and silly and hilarious and action packed. Like I remember immediately loving this movie.
And I think that's why that movie works so well, is because although it is goofy and it goes to some pretty nutso places, it still works as like a decent cop thriller. You're like, oh, who is killing these people?
Oh, absolutely.
Like when you're not laughing, you're like, wait, who? I want to know. So I think that's the genius of this. This took 18 months to write. So they wanted to make sure they got every detail down pat. I think they even borrowed a book of like Roger Ebert. He wrote down like all these great movie tropes. So if you watch the movie, you can see all of the cop movie tropes and like the way the camera's flashing in and out was, based on Tony Scott. Man on Fire. I just watched Unstoppable the other day with the Unstoppable train. I just like, oh, I can see he's doing a Tony Scott thing.
It's
Spoiler
very
alert,
Tony
it's
Scott,
eventually
very
stopped.
Michael Bay.
Yeah, very Tony Scott, Michael Bay, John Woo.
Yeah.
Like it wears all these movies is on its sleeve, and I think that's what makes it so compelling. But I want to get into the meat of this movie, which is about all of these crazy characters that we meet. So I want to start with the police squad, of course. Jim Broadbent as Frank Butterman, the inept cop, the chief, and then of course there are the twins, the Andys, probably my favorite characters.
Oh my god.
Playing
Wait, so are they
the
actually twins, or are they just?
no, they're two different
Oh yeah,
actors.
it's all good.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, even the
one of them.
characters, yeah.
Yeah, one of them is Patty Constantine, who we'll talk about a little later. He shows up in The World's End. He's hilarious. And one is Andy Spall, I believe is his name. But they were just, they're the asshole cops always talking shit like, oh, there's no murder. There's nothing going on. And
What more of this?
there's an old guy who don't know what the hell he's talking about half the time. And then there is the great future Oscar winner Olivia Colman as the sexually suggestive Doris, the only female on the team, making all these sexual innuendos.
Yeah.
Really, really revving up. This is like the first time I saw Olivia Colman, and now she's gone on to just be incredible in everything from The Bear to The Favorite. She was a voice in Mitchell's and the Machines, just one of the great. I mean, who knew she would be out there starting Edgar Wright movies? And then, of course, there's all these great old people in the bar. Just the elderly are some of the funniest people in this film. Just like the bartenders who are letting all these underage kids drink.
They're like, better they mess in here and they can't, do it outside.
When's your birthday? 22nd of February. What year?
Every year.
Like,
so Nicholas Angel just shows up to Stanford and just starts causing a lot of shit, makes a lot of these old folks upset, especially the leader, the manager of the supermarket in town, the god, Timothy Dalton, who I would argue walks away with this movie in most of the scenes. Probably like if I had to pick a favorite James Bond post actor, it's probably him because every time I've seen him in something, he is incredible. And here he plays Skinner. Spoiler alert: he might be the killer because he keeps making all of these innuendos. Keeps showing up at the scene of the crime.
It's like, can you even call it foreshadowing? Just in every scene, just like
twirling his mustache as he walks by.
Yes, like one of the quotes that I saved was his first appearance. When you first see him, Nicholas is going for a jog in the morning. It's about to be his first official day on the job, which of course a big part of his character benefit and how he cracks it all open. But also his character flaw is that he literally is in love with his job and he just cannot turn it off. So even though he officially does some work before his first day, actually as a sergeant in Sandford, he's just going for a jog, and then Timothy Dalton, as what was his name, Simon Skinner, just jogs past him and is already like, my discount's a criminal, catch me later. Just
catch
like, yo, like, this guy isn't the guy, or at least
I'm a slasher of prices.
Yo, yes, I'm a slasher of people.
So yeah, he was a lot of fun, and just there's so many good moments. Like one of my favorite moments that I didn't get until I was older was the Romeo and Juliet bit. Was there's this couple that they pull over because they were speeding, and the guy's like, "Look, I'll give you tickets to come see my rendition of Romeo and Juliet." Come to find out, they're doing Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet.
It took me out because Juliet with the gun. I was like, "Yo, come on,
love me, say that you love me." I was like, okay.
I sat through this for 3 hours, and the only thing believable was the kissing.
Yeah, so over time, these two bond, and as the mystery gets deeper, we come to find out that all these elderly people, from the gardener to the bartenders to even the police chief, they're all part of this secret cult to keep things in Sanford the same. They're called the Neighborhood Watch Association, or NWA. Who have a very famous song about how they feel about the police. So very clever writing on Edgar Wright's part. So
was that
all of these little accents. No, go ahead.
No, I'm just again, it's just thinking of
I
how
think you got something.
meticulously crafted everything else was. I'm like, I never heard anything official about this, but I gotta know if that was intentional on Edgar Wright's part.
It was, yes. They've confirmed it,
Okay,
yes.
because like I would expect that from an American director at least, but again, that's just like, oh wow, so mindful. Just look at him.
Yes.
It's the American culture at this point.
Yeah.
Edgar loves, yeah, he studied everything. So
Yeah.
Nick decides to get this stick out of his ass and he's going to save Sanford from this crazy cult for the greater good. That
The
was your
greater
cue again.
good.
There you go.
Caught it this time, yeah.
You got it.
So, and that all leads to probably my favorite scene in the whole film, which is that's the entire third act. Because the whole time Nick is just this is the straight man Simon Pegg, where Nick Frost is the nerd who only wants to be a cop because he watches movies like Point Break and Bad Boys. So Nick finally gives in, and the third act is just a complete switch. He goes from this quiet guy, like, I don't use guns, I don't do anything, into the stereotypical macho action super cop. And he's saying all of his lines in a corny way. The camera turns into a Michael Bay film. It is just so cathartic, and there's just something so funny about old people with guns.
Unless you're in America. Anyway.
Unless you're in America. But somebody, these old sleepy cottage Mary Poppins women holding like a Uzi just going. It's just so rewarding and so fulfilling. I just get a kick out of that scene every time. And Simon Pegg and Nick Frost lay it on thick with all the tropes, all the cliches. Just like at the last hour, they said, "Fuck it, okay, we're throwing everything at the wall," and it's beautiful. So how'd you guys feel about that whole third act with the whole shootout and embracing the tropes?
Oh, I absolutely loved it because it's kind of like a switch flipped in his head where he realized, well, for one thing, he's kind of caught between a rock and a hard place the entire movie because it's like it begins with a promotion that also feels like a demotion at the same time because they're shipping you off for being too good at your job, and then you get there and being so good at your job, nobody wants to do any actual work, and because you've just like stirred everything up just going by the book, at this point he's just like, well, fuck it, it's got to get done somehow.
Exactly.
And nothing is going to change unless I do this right now. And yeah, so he just goes into like his voice is low and gravelly. He's doing all like the 80s one-liners, and he's just going for it. And I love that as another moment of levity, they even will occasionally ask like, oh yeah, well, did you quip about this when you did it? He's like, no, not that time, but I did say the funny thing when I did this other thing. He's like, like,
oh yeah, he's like, yeah, you must have been earlier when I smashed him over the head with the monkey. I said, playtime's over. You're off the fucking chain. And that's so one of my I think this is Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. Their chemistry here is just like electric at an all-time high. Even when they're catching the swans, even when they're riffing, even when Nick Frost doing the great catch-up bit, it's just like you can see these guys becoming friends in real time. And I'm glad you brought up that opening scene because I want to talk about some of the cameos we saw in that scene. So, of course, we see the opening scene. I found this out that Father Christmas, who stabbed Simon Pegg in the hand, it's Peter Jackson.
Wow.
Yo.
So random. I love that.
Yeah. Shout out to Peter Jackson just showing up.
You got
and
a director friend who's got an afternoon free. You're like, hey, you want to?
Yeah. Why not? Hey, come stab Simon Pegg in the hand. And
Peter
of course,
Jackson's like, I've always wanted to. That smug bastard.
When Simon Pegg is getting demoted, his bosses are, of course, the great Martin Freeman and Bill Nighy and Steve Coogan, who are incredible. They only have one scene; they kill it.
Yeah,
I love Martin Freeman's little "new."
I can call him right now. Would you like me to escalate this? Do you want to bring him all the way down here to?
Yes, Kenneth. He's right down the street, and then of course Simon Pegg or Nicholas Angel rather, has an ex-girlfriend named Janine, and I don't know if you guys knew who this one was, but I'll let you guess.
Yeah,
you know who this famous actress was under the mask?
I do.
She has a movie out right now that's getting critically bombed.
Oh, I know who it is.
Steven, do you give up? Final answer?
I give up. I'm gonna kick myself, but
it was Cate Blanchett.
Bruh. Oh, as Janine.
Yes.
That makes sense. Okay.
Which was was another hilarious scene with all the guys in the mask. Does Bob
Yes.
look like somebody I'd go out on a date with? I'm going out with Greg. Hello there.
Like, now why am I in it?
Like NPC characters, just like ooh,
Yes.
like
I
kind
will
of
say,
talking, but
so
not really.
Hello there.
the first note that I actually took, the first thing I made note of while doing this watch actually came from that scene, and it's one of my favorite quotes from the entire movie, where Nick says to Janine, "Guilty people often make the first move," while she was talking about how it was ultimately his decision to end their relationship, or put a pause on things. And it's like he was owning up to it on his part, but it's one of those lines that's a slow burn, because you're like, at face value, hey, that's funny, but you're like, yo, yeah, because I mean, you did the thing that ultimately
Yeah.
you got convicted or not of, and you're guilty because you made the first move, usually for a nefarious reason.
Womp womp. See, you fumbled Kate Blanchett. And another one of my last favorite cameos is got my man who plays Michael, aka Lurch. We know him as another name. He was on a little show called Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was not the Mountain. What was the other name? The Hound. Yeah.
yeah, the Hound.
Yes, the guy going yarp was actually the badass protecting Anya in Game of Thrones. And I
Yarp.
don't want to talk about that show anymore because I'll get mad. So, Hot Fuzz. Back to Hot Fuzz. Like we said, there's so many things that we love. And of course, speaking of the final fight scene, like for me, one of the most painful ways to go out, because I was thinking about this watching Alien, like how shitty it would be to get like have a chest burster come out of you. Like I thought about that the same way I saw Timothy Dalton's, little
Urgh.
Oh
that's
yeah,
Yeah.
that's fucked up.
yeah,
messed
that's that. And this movie gets incredibly gory and it's hilarious. Like,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to some of these accidents, like the journalist getting his entire head smushed
Yes.
by the cathedral.
Oh man, yeah.
Which was just like, again, like once this movie hits like the hour mark, you either got to go with it, accept where it's taking you, or you just got to hop off the train. Because I've seen some people like, I've read a bunch of reviews coming back and they're like, oh, okay, I like the first part, but then it just got weird. So this is like Edgar fully embracing his weirdness at this rate. We'll only see that progress as his filmography goes on. But I was just seeing if I had any more notes for you. But yeah. I would love to say I love the horror elements. A lot of good jump scares in this. When it comes to
I was gonna say, like,
the hooded killer.
This movie is basically a slasher. Like it commits to like the slasher elements just as much as like the badass action cop elements. Like the hooded killer is basically like a ghost face at times, especially like the chase scenes.
Him just being in the background of certain areas where characters
exactly, yeah, little
Yeah.
jump scares with like the music sting and everything, like very slasher.
It catches you off guard. Like that's the thing about Edgar Wright that's so great. Like he's able to just juggle all of these genres and make it fit in ways that are so unconventional. And there's just this movie shouldn't work. Like if in anybody else's hands, this wouldn't work. But I feel like he has like the perfect balance of comedy and drama and relatability to make these characters, leap off the screen. And I feel like
and over fences.
Again, we have to mention the fence gag, which this might be my favorite fence gag out of the whole Cornetto trilogy, where, of course, Nick, the badass super cop, jumps over all of these fences, and then Butterman, the bumbling idiot, just face plants through them. It never fails to get a giggle out of me. And of course, the Edgar Wright wordplay. One of my favorite moments is during the chase scene when he's running an alley and he's like, "Oh, you mothers!" And it's a carriage of mothers with their children. Just so many funny things in this movie. And they filmed this in Edgar Wright's hometown, so I actually grew up here. And he said, like, "I love this place, but I want to trash it." So Edgar Wright got to move around. Great. Edgar Wright got to move around his old neighborhood and just have a ball with it. So 2024 fan casting. I actually thought about this a little bit. I was stuck. But when I was looking at Nicholas Angel, Simon Pegg, if I were to do this 2024, I would do this with somebody who else is having fun doing these action comedies right now, and that'd be Daniel Craig. I think Daniel Craig
that'd be fun.
Really Nick Angel. And I can kind of see, like, in Simon Pegg, he has the blonde Casino Royale thing going on. So I don't know if that was intentional. We got to make him look like Daniel Craig. But I I mean, if you watch those Knives Out movies, he is having a complete and utter ball. So,
absolutely. And that kind of shows more of his like chops for comedy. I'd say those, and also Logan Lucky, just as far as him breaking out of what you would have come to expect from him. So especially keeping that with a Brit, that makes sense for Daniel Craig. Because like when you first mentioned him, I was gonna say Daniel Craig might be like a little old at this point for it, but Nicholas Angel really could be any age, just to be somebody who is just really good at his job because he takes it way too seriously. And then to be getting this promotion, what, you know what I mean? So it's like, as long as you can still conceivably do these physical gags, but well, really just physical feats. And part of the humor of it was just where you're just like, okay, no, I know Simon Pegg couldn't have done that, like, you know, that somersault and then keep running and like even in pretty good shape. No, but I did love that. Circling back to the fence thing, that you know, he did like all but the last jump himself, and then they just like swapped out with a stunt double, so it could have all, you know, it was all done in frame.
Right.
Good old Texas switch.
Yep, there you go. And we'll come back to that Texas switch later. But when it comes to Danny, Nick Frost's character, I thought about your boy from What We Do in the Shadows, Brandon, Matt Berry. I thought he'd be really fun in it.
So great. Yes. Oh my God. Please. That'd be amazing.
There you go. And then cast a bunch of old people around them too. Don't change the old people. I think they're all perfect.
Yeah. I feel like most of them are still alive. You could just
don't change them. They're great. Even Timothy Dalton can stay because he's just too. I couldn't see anybody else doing that kind of scenery chewing thing unless this is an idea for Skinner. I'd say Idris.
Yes. Especially somebody who's just like, he's so tremendously likable that you would never, you know, as
you would never
somebody
guess.
living there, you'd never think, that he could be doing that.
Shoot you with that killer smile, like, oh, come on,
bro. Right. And then it would be even more like smooth, because I mean, like, Timothy Dalton was flexing. He showed you why he was able to play Bond. And dang, and then now that you bring Idris, it's kind of tragic in that sense too, just because of what we could have had.
Well, we ran that into the ground for like 20 years. Hey, Idris Elba could be Bond. Yeah, all right, okay. we gave it a shot, but it's over. It's over. But let's just go ahead and get out of here, because I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. This is my favorite out of the Cornetto trilogy. Spoiler alert for the future episodes, but out of the 3 films based around the Simon Pegg, Nick Frost friendship encounters, this, as somebody who grew up loving these corny ass cop movies. I'm not even talking about the good ones. I'm talking about like Steven Seagal and fucking Jet Li, and what was every time DMX made a movie, just like all those corny like action movies where it just seems impossible, and you know, there's just some murder we have to uncover. I was there from the jump. So Edgar Wright again does these labor of love tribute movies that work on both levels as a tribute and then as their own standalone entry into the cop genre. People could say this is their favorite cop movie ever because it works. The mystery works. The build-up works. Like the fall, it's not just like a Family Guy episode. It's like, hey, we're gonna do Lethal Weapon for 30 minutes. Like, no, there's an actual plot and an ending to it. And I find something new every time. Again, with Edgar Wright, these screenplays, you got to think twice because there's always a joke you're missing. There's always something, a clue you're missing. And all these performances are just off the wall. And again, it takes everything that you love about cop movies and then just pushes it over the top, adds some Earl Grey English tea, stirs it up, then throws it at you. I'm going to go ahead. If I'm going to go ahead and give a rating right now, I'm going to go on a limb. This is a 9, probably a 9.5 for me. I love this movie.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I say I gotta agree. Because I say I gave Sean 8.5 out of 10, and I do feel like Hot Fuzz is like a little bit more refined. Even though it has a bit of a longer runtime, and I love too that they kept it from being over long like some cop movies do. So it kind of suits Edgar Wright's frenetic style, to just kind of give you some like exposition rapid fire. So like with Shaun of the Dead, how it would be the news and radio broadcast telling you about certain things going on with the zombie virus outbreak. In Hot Fuzz, it was literally just quick montages. I loved and thought it was hilarious how meticulously it showed like everybody being booked and processed, but but
the paperwork.
flipping that rope on his head with the paperwork, because you never see that aspect. You're just like, oh my god, these guys just like blew up all these buildings and they just like shot everything up within a 3-mile radius, and you're like, somebody has to do that paperwork. But
That's the end of Rush Hour. Is just Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker just filing.
Right.
Say, man, how you spell this dude's name?
Like the Avengers get to go and get shawarma because they don't have to worry about cleanup. But like, no, like you're beating cops walking the street. It's like, no, I got my pen. Just
got 2 pens.
Oh yeah.
Brett, do you give your rating, Steven?
Oh yeah, so I'll say it's definitely a strong 9 out of 10. We gotta make Sanford great again. That was another line that jumped out to me that never had such significance until after like 2016 as an American. Like, yo, there's no way you could have known in 2007, but dude, it's just because it's like as soon as he said that, it basically Sanford kind of became like Florida. Like a bunch of old retirees who are just like, no, we hate change. Yes.
Brandon, what about your review and rating?
Yes. Now this is, I go back and forth on what my favorite Edgar Wright movie is, and it's like usually between this one and what we're talking about next time with The World's End. But I really love this movie. Like, I think this works super well. Like, if you're like super into conspiracy movies, super into cop movies, action, comedy, slasher, like you said, like the genres all mix and meld like so well together. And if you're on board for it to get weird and absurdly violent, like I think you are greatly rewarded. Like by the time you get to the climax of this movie, it's definitely one of my favorite Simon Pegg and Nick Frost like duo roles. Like, I can watch this movie anytime. It's so funny. Like both of you said, like I notice something new like every single time I watch it. But yeah, I think I would honestly give this just a straight up 10 out of 10 for me.
Oh, our first 10. Right. I'm setting my 10. I have a 10 coming up. I'm going to save it, but I don't want to give it away. But yes, I agree. Hot Fuzz, Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, Edgar Wright, another banger. Their second movie out the gate. Can they keep? Yes. Not going to show it for you because next week, this is the one. This is the one I've been waiting on. This is perhaps my most anticipated. Next week, we're finally doing Scott Pilgrim, his third film, 2010. I don't want to give anything away. I don't want to. We're this might be a longer episode because I don't have enough to say. But as far as Hot Fuzz, what did you guys think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What are your best scenes? What are your worst scenes? Is this your favorite out of the Cornetto trilogy? If not, let us know. We love you. Thank you so much for tuning in to Everybody's a Critic. Episode 2 episodes down. I can't believe it. And we're only going to keep going from here. Thanks so much for everybody who watched the first episode and shared it. Thank you so much. And we love doing this. And if there's any directors you want to hear us break down, please feel free to let us know. But until then, I am Jamarco Shaw. That's Stephen Dinkins. That's Brandon Horn. Thank you for tuning in. And we will see you next time. And we are